The Hyper E-Ride Mountain 26, but not just any. Hyper E-Ride Mountain 26, this one has some modifications. I call this the Mini Mullet. In this video, I'm going to go over what mullet means, why I call this a mullet bike. Regular viewers already going to know just by looking at it. But this Hyper E-Ride Mountain 26, part of a 3-bike lineup, the E-Ride City, the E-Ride Mountain 26, which is this one, and the E-Ride Mountain 29. As I always do, I share the good and the bad. Whenever I make mistakes or whenever there are factory defects, I share all of it, and there's a lot of it to share here. Because this is a build so bad that I'm going to call it Project Fail version 2. I've already had one project fail, but this is definitely a project fail. So many things that went wrong, some my fault, some not my fault. Either way, the end result, this, what I call the E-Ride Mini Mullet Mountain. And of course, also Project Fail version 2, volume 2, V2, whatever you want to use, it's definitely a fail. So let me show you what I've changed so far. And I say so far tentatively, even though I don't think I'm going to be able to complete this. Let me just give you a quick look. You can see that I changed the bars. These Mix Supers, 760 millimeters wide. I forget the rise on these bars, but a lot better than the factory bars. And a new stem, how about this? I don't even know how you say that. Tasor, something like that. It's a 35 millimeter stem. Look at that profile, much better than the factory, definitely mountain bike. One of the good parts of these Hypers, their headset, these Neko headsets with a sealed bearing. Very nice. A new logo, new grips from a name that you've seen before here on KevCentral, Corky. These, let me tell you, very, very nice lock-ons. A little bit of a mold line there, kind of taking away from the aesthetic, but I don't know how well this shows up. Can you see the squish? These are super, super comfortable. Very, very impressed am I with these grips. Corky makes good stuff. I've been impressed so far with just about everything that they've put out that I have used. Definitely impressed with these grips. And I like the Corky logo and then the larger Corky logo. Shows up well. Very attractive grips. And by the way, if you hear cicadas, I'm trying the mic that I used in the last video, which ironically was on this bike as well. I had noise suppression or noise cancellation turned on. It was quite annoying. I'm going to go with the cicada sounds this time and the mic on standard audio. So comment below with how it's working out, because in my tests, I think it did pretty good. Back to the Mini Mullet, where beside the grips, the brakes, I kept the brakes, or at least kept the brake levers because of the motor shutoff switch. But you'll know from my previous video, I converted the front here to disc via a set that I had laying around, including mongoose rotors, and tied it in with the factory lever so I'll get that motor shutoff switch. Very, very important. Beside the right brake lever though, you can see there the 8-speed shifter, which, well, it's not really attached to anything, and there's a reason for that. But this, a Pro Rush, can't really see the logo, but this is a Pro Rush shifter. Very familiar to anyone that has ridden any of the 2020 and beyond Schwinn's, the really good Schwinn's from Walmart. The trigger shifters come with a Pro Rush, there we go, Pro Rush logo. More on this and why this is like that in just a moment. Pedals, I had also already shown you these race face Chesters I put on this. Can't remember if I used these new or looted them off something else, but a big improvement over the factory pedals. The crank set, as you can see, this is the factory crank set. This is part of my fails, which I'll be talking about in just a second, because what I planned didn't work out. Thanks to that, the cadence sensor magnet system. This fork, man, this looks new, and it is. This is a RockShox. I can't remember the exact model number. I'll put it on your screen. But this fork may look familiar to longtime KevCentral viewers, because coincidentally, this was originally on another Hyper. It was on the Hyper Carbon X 26 when I modified it and turned it into a 27.5 bike. A lot smoother performance to the Mini Mullet, to the Hyper E-Ride Mountain. Actually makes it quite capable out here on the Wildwood trails. And when I get to what I'm about to get to, you're going to say, well, how do you know, because you haven't ridden it? Well, I did ride it with this fork in the Mini Mullet configuration using the complete factory drivetrain before I started changing things and things went badly wrong. And I guess I can start here at the front wheel with all the things that went wrong. Because while this is a 27.5 front wheel, making this a mullet, a larger wheel in the front than in the back. So the whole mullet thing, short up front, low and long in the back, and that's the 26 back there. But I originally had a tire and a wheel that I was going to use on this, a Bontrager rim, Bontrager Line Comp 30. I even spent $30 extra to get end caps to convert it to quick release just so I could use it on this build. And I had a Vigilante, a WTB Vigilante 27.5 tire. What I did with that tire, I have no idea. So I ended up having to loot yet again off Project X, my modified Hypercarbon X, the wheel from it, which is a Weinmann U28 wheel with the Racing Ralph tires. So the first sign that things were not going to go as planned, another area that really should have tipped me off, was up here. These bars, brand new bars, but you may notice the color, well, doesn't match the bike. So why would I be that off on color? Well, what I have done on these Hyper E-Ride Mountains, I would swap batteries. And for the longest, I had the E-Ride Mountain 29 battery in here rather than this one. And I had this one on the E-Ride Mountain 29 just to be different. And the E-Ride Mountain 29 battery is this color. So when I look down and I see the battery regularly, when I'm ordering, in my mind, I ordered this green, not realizing that I had swapped batteries and just conditioned myself that this yellowish green is not going to match these bars. So yeah, that should be a clue. When I go to gather parts to put all this together and I can't find the tire and these bars don't match, that really set a tone. It's going to translate when we get down to this drivetrain. Just so I can keep a running count of all the fails. The front wheel, my fault because I lost the tire. And by the way, I was also going to make this tubeless up front just to make it tubeless up front. But wheel, one problem on me. The bar color being wrong, two. That's two problems on me. Third problem on me is down here at the drivetrain because I bought a new crank set for this. I was going to stick with the square taper because, you know, cadence sensor and all that. But I ran into a couple of problems. Problem number one, that cadence sensor, that's a magnet. So it needs something steel to stick to. You can see it just kind of clicks onto it. So an alloy crankset, not gonna work. And not only does it need to be steel, but it also has to fit with this magnet system. So the crankset that I purchased, this one, it didn't work. So I tried an alternate, one of the cranksets that I'd looted off one of my Schwinn's or one of the Mongoose bikes, but the depth was wrong. I couldn't get that magnet to fit in there and work perfectly. So I had to go back to the factory crankset. So fail number 3, and that's fail number 3 on me. And I was so happy I was going to be able to use a brand new ProRush that I've had since 2020, a warranty replacement that has been new in the box. You can see back here, I had the 8-speed ProRush freewheel 13 to 40 tooth. I was really curious what that was going to do to the experience here on the Hyper E-Ride Mountain 26, or Mini Mullet, as the case may be. You may notice though that there are a couple of critical parts of the drivetrain missing. Number 1, the chain. Number 2, the derailleur. Where is that ProRush derailleur? Fail number 4, the brand new ProRush derailleur that went with this ProRush index system and the new shifter. I had it on the floor and I stepped on it and broke the brand new derailleur. And I couldn't find another 8-speed because I just donated a bunch of parts to someone that was going to recycle them. And yeah, all of my 8-speed ProRushes, a good setup for a future video here, what not to throw away. But yeah, no derailleur at all for this 8-speed ProRush system. So what is that? Fail number 4, I'm losing count. I failed so much here, but it's not all on me because there are a couple, or 2 or 3 fails from Hyper that I discovered that really kind of doomed the project, at least as far as what I had feasibly in mind. The first is still back here at the rear at the drivetrain where the derailleur should be, because when I removed the bolt out of the factory derailleur, I don't know how well you can see it and I didn't bring a wrench, but there are threads there. The threads came out with the derailleur hanger. So this hanger, it's done. done for. No good. Gonna have to get a replacement, but I don't even think I'm going to replace it because of the other problem that I ran into that I can't fix. Another hyper-centric problem or manufacturing problem, because you can see I still have the rear brake, this rear rim brake, but it's been beefed up. I now have a rear disc rotor, and to just keep spreading the love, I went with a Schwinn rotor back here. You know, I have a Mongoose up front, but I went with a Schwinn rotor back here. But this rotor, it's not safe. It's not the rotor, it's the mount system. Because as I've mentioned in previous videos, this rear hub motor, very cool thing about this, and where it really expands possibilities with these E-Ride mountains, there is a provision for the caliper right there. And this hub motor, it has bolt holes perfectly set up for a rear disc. The problem is when I pulled those bolts out, 3 of the 6 were stripped from the factory. And I can't fix that. And that makes this hub useless for me. This is the power, because that's the motor. If 3 of those 6 are stripped, can't put a disc safely on this. And it's not even staggered around where maybe I could kind of wing it for a little bit. It's 3 on one side. I just put the rotor on there enough just to have it visually there because I was so frustrated. But that kills what would otherwise have been an excellent upgrade here to the Hyper E-Ride Mountain 26. And a big factory quality control problem on what is otherwise a well-built bike. Well, I say that, but you know, there are 2 things, 2 critical things. The threads came out when I went to remove the factory derailleur, and then those brake bolt holes. But to be fair, you know, they didn't make this bike to use disc brakes, so it could be that they just ran them in with a machine or something like that, knowing that, well, this bike doesn't have disc brakes, so it doesn't matter, there's no spec to worry about. I may be making excuses, yes, but I like to be fair. Fair or not, it is definitely a fail because this would have been, I believe, a very, very fun bike to ride if I could have pulled off everything. And I'm going to edit this in because I totally forgot to mention this. What I believe is part number 10 that I added. You know what, the 27.5 up front. I kept 26 at the rear, but it is a WTB Velociraptor. And I was going further with this. I think I had figured out a way to use a dropper post on this, internally cable routed. That would have made the E-Ride Mountain Mini Mullet spectacular. So there you go, my modifications, a few adaptations on what I had initially planned, and a couple of major fails. But at least it wasn't in vain because I did learn something. My suspicion was that I could use the power of this because one of the byproducts of a cadence sensor equipped e-bike with a hub motor is that as long as the pedals are spinning, the motor will stay engaged thanks to the cadence sensor. So I thought, well, I don't need a chain. I can just pedal my way up and make it to the top of the trail. Well, I'm only about a quarter of the way up, maybe halfway, because this couldn't do it. The 250 watts, without me adding some power from my own pedaling, it couldn't do it. Maybe some credence there, a learning lesson for the people that say that e-bikes are 100% cheating, because I have to put more effort than I thought I was putting into the bike to climb a hill that I've climbed many times on this very same bike. So there you go, e-bike haters. Even people who are at max pedal assist, they are actually assisting these little small powered 250 watt hub motors more than you would think. At least one small victory for my otherwise mini Mullet fail. And there you go. Comment below with what you think, if I should even keep trying. Honestly, I got so frustrated because this was on the day that my second Bike Barn air conditioner broke. I have another fail that'll probably be seen on Kev Reviews with a scooter, a kick scooter, changing the tube in the rear tire. Oh my gosh, what a catastrophe that was. So it was the third fail in a day or two. So I was really frustrated and decided to give up. Comment below if you think I should keep going, but I really don't know how I can. I can't use a rear disc brake. That means I would be stuck with the rear rim brake. So I just don't know if it's worth it because I have other e-bikes, maybe other hyper e-bikes on the way that are going to make this a moot point anyway. But you know what? This is still fun and I'm still getting to work, ride, and modify bikes. So if this is my biggest problem in life, I'm doing really well. Thanks for watching KevCentral. Have a great day.